4 times as many boys stutter as girls.
7 million people stutter worldwide, which is 1% of the population.
Every person stutters sound a little differently.
Stuttering is found all over the world in different languages.
Stuttering usually begins in childhood, between the ages of 2 and 5 years old.
There are no instant miracle cures for stuttering.
Let's talk about it.
Okay, guys. First, let me say hi. I'm going to be introducing our speaker today, and I'm so proud of her for coming and deciding for us to speak on this topic. It's something that is really important and that we often don't shed a lot of light on, so that's exactly what Taboo is about. She's someone who has gone to school with us for 13 years. That's a long time. That's like half of our life. So, and then she is somebody who's always talked about so many different topics and so many social justice issues, and now it's her turn to talk about it. So, I would like to introduce to you guys Isabella Love.
Welcome everyone to Taboo Chapel. My name is Isabella Love and I'm a senior. You may or may not know me, and if you don't know me, then you probably don't know that I'm a person who stutters. And I'm here to talk about what it's like to be a person who stutters. You might be wondering, what is stuttering? And it can be defined as a speech disorder involving frequent problems with normal fluency and flow of speech. By show of hands, how many of you know a person who stutters? That's okay if you don't, because you do now. Some notable people who stutter are President Joe Biden, the actor James Earl Jones, who is the voice of Darth Vader and Mufasa, the actress Emily Blunt, who played Mary Poppins, and professional baseball player George Springer, and professional golfer Tiger Woods. I have stuttered since I was about 3 years old, and in my family, I'm not the only one. My dad stutters, and so does my younger brother, and my grandpa stuttered, and I have some extended family who stutter as well. So for me, my stutter is genetic. For other people, they might not have a family history of stuttering, and some people may grow out of it. I obviously didn't. But if you were to talk to my brother or my dad, you would notice that we all stutter a little differently, and that's just the nature of stuttering. So to get to the beginning, as a little kid in elementary, I wasn't aware that I stuttered. Other kids would ask me, "Why do you talk like that?" And I was like, "Talk like what?" I didn't comprehend that I talk differently than other people, because when you're little, you don't care what others think of you, or at least I didn't. I just went about my business, living my life the way little kids do. I would go to speech therapy, and it was fun. We would play games and read books and play with Legos. I went from about 5 to 11 years old. I would go to Loma Linda University and work with the graduate students who were studying speech language pathology. And every semester, I would get to work with another grad student. But it wasn't until the claws of puberty set in and the changing societal pressures that I started to develop an insecurity about my stutter. Because when my body went through changes, my stutter also changed, and my view on my stutter changed. That's when I stopped raising my hand in class. I stopped talking to my teachers. I let people talk over me. And it didn't help that I was the only one in school that stutters. And I think I'm still the only one in school that stutters, unless there's somebody that I don't know. But that can be incredibly isolating. I didn't know anybody else who stuttered, and in my house we didn't talk about it either. So I was in this weird limbo, thinking the way I talked was taboo or wrong. I stopped going to speech therapy because although the students were nice, I didn't see the value of going anymore. And this is the way it was for a couple years, all through junior high. And if you knew me when I was younger, I didn't put myself out there. I was constantly worried about what other people thought of me. A lot of people who stutter struggle to say their name, and I'm one of those people. So I wouldn't like to introduce myself. I didn't want to talk to people I didn't already know. I didn't want to order food for myself. Can you imagine like really wanting a cheeseburger but getting stuck with a salad because saying salad was easier than saying cheeseburger? It wasn't up until 2 years ago that my perspective on my stutter changed. I can attribute that change to two things. One person was my speech therapist, Lauren. I started seeing her at the beginning of my freshman year, and she only works with people who stutter. So she helped me shift my perspective on how I stuttered. She looked at how my stutter affected me both physically and emotionally. Well, when I was younger and went to therapy, we worked on the mechanics of my speech and not how it impacted me emotionally or socially. She also challenged me in a lot of ways. She posed this really interesting question for me, and she asked if I disclosed my stutter to people I was interacting with, and I was like, no. I had never thought about it, but I still didn't know how to advocate for myself. I didn't know what I needed, so how could I ask people to give me what I need when I didn't have that answer for myself? But she also called out my family. She asked, why did we talk about stuttering as a family? And I'm sitting there like, I don't know. Because that's kind of weird. 3 out of 4 of my family stutters, and we don't talk about it. So she helped me open the dialogue with my family about stuttering. And I'm really grateful for that, because discussing stuttering is not taboo. It's just a part of my life and my family's life. Another thing that changed my life was summer camp. How many of you have been to summer camp? Oh, cool. That's really cool. I first went to summer camp the summer after my freshman year. This summer camp is for kids who stutter. It's called Camp Say, and I was really scared to go my first year. It's a 2-week summer camp in Pennsylvania, and you can't have your phone with you, so I knew that was going to be a problem. And I didn't know anybody. I was so nervous. I thought my family was sending me to my execution. I was 15, alone on a plane, terrified of meeting new people, and spent the entire flight crying. But it turned out to be a wonderful experience. I got to meet other kids beyond my family who stutter and develop meaningful friendships with them. One of the rules at camp is that you can't interrupt anybody else or finish their sentences for them. And when I'm back home, this happens all the time. People want to finish what I'm saying or talk over me, and it becomes this weird like guessing game. They're trying to figure out what I'm saying next, and I'm like, no, that's not what I'm going to say. And I could be saying like, and they're like, cat. And I'm like, no, that's wrong. I meant Kit Kat. And at camp, nobody finished my words for me. So it was weird for me to finish my own thoughts without the fear of being interrupted. And I have been fortunate enough to attend camp the summer of 2018 and 2019, but sadly it was another casualty of COVID this past summer. Another one of the mottos of Say is your voice matters. And for a long time, I didn't think my voice mattered. It wasn't until my second year at camp that I started to believe it for myself. If I didn't think my voice mattered, if that motto hadn't been true, then I wouldn't be up here speaking to you all. Because for a long time, I didn't think what I had to say and how I had to say it was important enough to make people listen. Being a girl who stutters puts me in a minority within a minority. In addition, I'm Black and Mexican, so to be in an environment to meet other people who stuttered of all races and religions was a huge awakening for me. Stuttering representation in the media is usually portrayed as male and white and dumb. So to meet other minorities and girls who stutter was amazing as well. And also, like, my friends who stutter are like really smart. Like, one of them has an interview at like Harvard, so she's like really smart. And yeah, but I had solidarity and a capacity that I didn't know existed. I also got to see other adults who stutter. There were so many times when I would worry that my stuttering would hold me back. To meet successful adults who stutter openly and proudly was a huge reassurance that I would be okay. The exposure of meeting a community of inspirational young adults and adults who stutter has reassured me that my only limitations will not be taking a risk and trying. It will never be my stuttering. For so long, I thought I was all alone on an island, but I was actually in the middle of Times Square. A quote that really stuck with me is, "The shame of stuttering comes from how long you go without knowing it's okay to stutter." And I think for the first time in my life, I can say that it's okay that I stutter. So to end, I encourage everyone to start listening more. One of the most important things you can do if you interact with a person who stutters is to listen. Simple as that. I have my good and bad days. I still get nervous at the drive-through window, and I still struggle to say my name sometimes, and my jokes may never land perfectly. Would life be easier if I didn't stutter? Sure. But have I met amazing people who stutter? Yes, I have. So wherever God takes me, I know I'm going to be okay because I have my family, I have my friends who stutter and who don't stutter. And as I transition to a new phase of life soon, I know I have the support from people around me who are cheering me on. And at the end of the day, I know I'm going to be okay. Thank you for listening. So to wrap up, we asked you guys questions on Instagram, and so we're going to read some questions and I'm going to answer them.
Okay, so the first question that somebody asked is, does it bother you when people respond to a question you haven't finished asking?
Yes, because you wouldn't do that to a person who doesn't stutter, so why would you do that to me? I mean, sometimes like I even do it too. If like sometimes like it's my fluent friends who like the word isn't like they don't know what the word they're trying to say. But for the most part, don't do it. That's my advice.
Okay. The second question is, what were some of the hardest trials you went through as a kid or now?
That's really hard. I think as a kid, just like the isolation of like being the only kid who you know who stutters can be really isolating, for lack of a better word. I think as I get older, it's like because I'm going off to college soon, like this, I'm going to be meeting a lot of new people, and how do I navigate these new social interactions with people who I don't know and who don't love me? So how am I gonna navigate those situations? And that's, I think, the hardest thing being growing up. Yeah.
Is it harder for you to make friends, and when you make friends, do you feel out of place?
Sometimes, okay. Yes, it is harder to make friends because some people are very judgmental. I think, what's the second part of the question? I'm sorry?
Do you feel out of place?
Sometimes I do, yes, because like usually when you're excited and you talk really, really fast, and it's like I can't keep up. So yeah, sometimes I do feel out of place. I think it's gotten better as I've gotten older, so I know how to advocate for myself. And if they interrupt me, I'm like, no, please don't interrupt me. But when I was younger, yeah, for sure.
Okay, the next question is, what is the hardest word or phrase for you to say?
Well, overall, for a lot of people who stutter, it's their own name. So for me, like, it's not even that hard anymore. But day by day, there could be a different phrase that could be harder to say just from like one day to the next. It's not really like one phrase in particular besides my name. Like the other day, I couldn't say the word sky, and like that was just like the hard word for the day.
How do you feel about the media portrayal of people who stutter?
Well, there's not that much on it, but when I said in my speech was that they're white and they're male and they're dumb, because usually stuttering is the butt of a joke. So like, they're like stupid because like they stutter, and it's like I don't like it. I think our current president, I don't know if whatever your political beliefs are, but he had someone at the DNC, a little boy who stuttered, and I think that raises more awareness, and I think with him it's going to hopefully change.
Do Do you feel like it's harder to stay in group conversation?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that because there's so many people, it's hard to capture all the people's attention. Um, I just kind of combat that by talking louder, which I don't know if is the best thing to do, but yeah, it's definitely harder. I think that's why I usually sticking to I like small groups of friends, but that's just like what makes me feel better.
What is your greatest accomplishment in regards to stuttering?
Maybe being up here. I don't know. I mean, I think just the way how far I've come, because for so long I was so quiet and I wouldn't want to let other people hear me speak. So to be at camp and to speak in front of camp, I read poetry in front of camp. I did other things at camp, and then to take that confidence that I gained and then bring it to school, which is a whole different environment, I think has been a really big accomplishment for me.
Does being stressed or nervous worsen your stuttering?
Yes. It didn't happen today, surprisingly. But yeah, being nervous definitely increases my stuttering. Being stressed definitely increases my stuttering. I think that, I know there's some, I'm not a speech therapist, obviously, so I know there's some psychological backings to that. I'm actually on anti-anxiety medication to help with my stuttering.
Do you appreciate when people bring up your stuttering in conversation?
That is very dependent on the context. If they're rude about it, well then obviously not. If they have a genuine question that are very respectful, well then sure you can bring it up. But for example, sometimes I say my name and they're and sometimes I hesitate and they laugh and they're like, well, did you forget your name? And I'm like, no, that's not funny. So in that situation, then I wouldn't like it. But if they ask a genuine question about it, then it's fine.
Okay, and finally, what is the weirdest question that you have been asked about your stutter?
Ooh, I think, does it hurt? And it does not hurt. That's one thing off the top of my head. Does it hurt? Or some people just don't know or did you forget your name? That's another one. That's the only things I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Isabella, for answering all of our questions and for speaking. Sorry, guys.
Let's give her another big hand. It takes a lot of courage to do what you did here today, and I know I stood back with some of the teachers there, and I walked up to one of them, Mr. McFarland, and he said, I'm just amazed. That's incredible that you're standing up there and doing that. And it's true, it takes a lot. And I want to ask you one last question, and you may have already addressed this, but what motivated you to stand up here today? Why did you want to do this? Yeah, come on up here, absolutely.
So I don't know what really motivated me to do this. I think that because camp is such a big inspiration to me, and we didn't get to have it this past summer, that I didn't get to have that positivity that camp brings me into my life. So I figured, I guess, why not bring it here? And I think because like not many people know about what stuttering is and like how it can affect a person. So to bring it to school where I spent a lot of time, I spent the last 13 years of my life here, and to bring you guys all into this intimate part of me, I guess, was what motivated me.
Well, let me say this to you. Before she came up here, by the way, Mom, this is recorded, so you can. I'll have the whole thing for you as well. Before she came up here, she asked me to review her talk, and when I read through it, I mean, I was almost in tears reading this because I remember her in junior high, and I remember how she didn't speak very much, and I knew why. But I wasn't going to push her to speak either. I wasn't going to say, okay, you have to speak, come on, you got to. And I realized, and when I did ask to read, she did read in class. I do remember that, and I appreciated that. And I want to say this to you, is I think that your stuttering makes you even more beautiful. I want you to know that, because it makes you very unique.
Yeah.
And in the society today, we actually embrace uniqueness more than we ever have. And I think it's beautiful who you are. It's a part of who you are, and I think it's a beautiful part of who you are. And I think everybody here would agree with that. Am I correct in saying that? Just appreciate you coming up here and doing that. And I hope, and my prayer is, that this isn't where it stops for you.
Yeah.
I think that I think you need to be an activist for this. For everybody that stutters, and we've got a president now that stutters, and I know that he was harassed for a little bit because of his stuttering, and that was unfortunate. But thank you so much for being a part of worship today and for sharing today, because it takes a lot of courage, and I hope that this is something you continue doing from here on out.
Thank you. Oh, and if you guys have any personal questions that you want to ask me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Absolutely. Thank you. Give her another big hand. And I'll tell you too, when she speaks, there have been times that I wanted to finish the sentence for her, and I'm like, and I have to stop myself and say, no, she wants to finish her own thought, but it's been hard for me at times to do that. So when you get to know her, and if you haven't gotten to know this young lady, she's amazing. She's just downright amazing. But when you get to know her, remember that. Keep that in mind. That when she's talking, she's going to finish her own thought. You just need to be patient. It's all good, and it's a beautiful thing to see her, push through that and share her thoughts. Thank you again. Thank you guys. Hey, thank you those of you at home. Everybody, I hope you have an amazing weekend. God bless. Thank you, Taboo team. You're